Today's video is on the extreme irrationality of life jackets and how they're a form of tyranny and oppression. Do I have something against all safety gear? No, I think safety gear is good. I mean, I use it at times. I think people should use it at times. I think life jackets are a great tool. People should use, but there's other tools too. Lots of flotation devices. And I think it's really annoying and unsafe how life jacket culture works. So I don't want to cover every piece of safety gear. In my last video, I did helmets. I kind of covered seat belts, and then this one I'm covering life jackets. So I think those are the big three, right? But seat belts are also kind of like, I didn't really explain it that well in my last video, so I just want to briefly touch on that first. Okay, so why are seat belts irrational? Most of the time they're not. Okay, so I actually took the time to do an experiment. How fast can you like stop in a car without a seatbelt and be okay? So like in my opinion, I'd say you can go about 20 kilometers an hour if you're not expecting to crash, and about 30 if you are, right? So not too fast, right? But like, does that give justification to not wear a seatbelt at times? Yeah, it certainly does. Like in a parking lot, everybody's driving, max 15 kilometers an hour. So, if you get hit in a parking lot or whatever, you realistically are probably going to be fine without a seatbelt, all right? But for most driving, like you're going faster than that. It's pretty rare. Like a parking lot's the only situation that's typical where you're driving that slow, right? But it's still really annoying and irrational because I remember like when I was a kid, we would be slowing down to like 5 kilometers an hour, and I'd take my seatbelt off, and the mom would always go, "Put your seatbelt back on. The car hasn't stopped," right? And I'm like, okay, well, they obviously don't understand physics very well. When you're driving slow, the bigger risk is not you hitting someone; it's someone else hitting you. Okay, and when you're in a parked car, you still have the same risk of someone else hitting you. If you park your car on the highway, most people feel safe to take their seatbelt off, but that's actually like a really crazy thing to do. You're in a really dangerous situation where you most definitely would want your seatbelt on, right? Okay, so that's the irrationality of seatbelt. It's not that irrational because like most of the time you drive, you're going faster than like 20 kilometers an hour, and you're not expecting to crash, right? So like most of the time a seatbelt is probably warranted, right? Bike helmets and life jackets, by contrast, I would argue, depending on the person, up to 50 to 80% of the time they're irrational, right? So they're much more irrational than seatbelts. Now, why is a life jacket irrational at all? So, the law is you have to wear a life jacket when you're on any kind of boat. But here's the crazy thing, you don't have to wear a life jacket when you're swimming. So, here's a picture of me swimming across this lake here, okay? Where's your life jacket, right? Okay, so first of all, this is a cold lake, okay? So if you don't know how to cold water swim, you're in big trouble because your muscles are gonna freeze up and you're gonna drown. And there's nobody around here who can save you, right? The only guy here is my friend who took the picture, and he's not gonna swim in there and save me. He doesn't even want to go in the lake. It's really cold, right? So, and I wouldn't blame him. If he tried to swim out and save me, you probably end up with two drowned people instead of one. So there's no sense in doing that. Anyway, so swimming across this lake, is like infinitely more dangerous than boating across the lake. Okay, so let's pretend you're on a boat. The worst case scenario is that the boat sinks right in the center of the lake where where it's maximum distance from the shore on either end, right? And I'm like, in that worst case scenario, you have to swim half the distance of the lake to get back to the shore, right? Whereas when you swim across the lake, you have to swim the full distance. The worst case scenario in a boat is half as bad as the normal scenario swimming, right? So obviously swimming is infinitely more dangerous. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you're just uneducated and ignorant and this and that. And I say, well, let's just actually put that to the test, right? I'll bring you out to like this lake, and I'll give you the option of like traveling it in a canoe or swimming. And you'll put your foot in there, you'll feel the coldness down to your bones, and you'll be like, yeah, I think I'll take the canoe. When you put put people's words to the test, their attitudes very quickly change. So now you can go even more dangerous than this. One example is rip currents. Okay, rip currents are even more dangerous than cold water swimming. And you don't need a life jacket to swim where there's rip currents. Okay, so in Australia, the number one cause of natural death is people drowning in rip currents. So a rip current is like this tide which pulls you away from the shore. And what happens is people intuitively try to fight the rip current. They try to swim back to the shore. They get exhausted and then they drown, right? So in that case, if they were wearing a life jacket, it would probably save their life because if anybody else is around, they can call the lifeguard or whatever, and then they can pick them up in 20 minutes or 30 minutes. They can get a boat out there or whatever and save them, right? But again, like rip currents kill more people than sharks, right? And you don't need a life jacket to swim at a beach. And there's other things at beaches that kill you too. Like you can just drown from waves too. Nobody would go to the beach. Like, I mean, honestly, would anybody go to the beach if they had to wear a life jacket? I don't think they would. Like, there's a lot, a lot to be said about, having your body in the sun feeling good. Like when I want to relax, I like to, take my shirt off, wear a swimsuit and just chill out in the sun. And that feels really good. It feels really nice to have the wind against your body. It feels really nice to have the sun against your body and all these things, right? And a life jacket like deprives you of all that. It makes like the natural experience suck, right? So, because like I went boating and everybody's like forcing me to wear this life jacket. I'm like, dude, this water is like, hip deep at like the deepest point, right? I can freaking walk through it. I don't need a life jacket here, I'll jump out of the boat right now and start swimming. Like, and you wouldn't care if I was swimming here, right? There's other people over there swimming. They have no life jacket. And I'm like, so what's the deal with this, right? Why are they pushing so much to wear this life jacket? And it comes down to this conformity thing. And the truth is, I went rafting with like a life jacket and it totally ruined the experience. I'm like, there's no wind on my body. There's no like, it feels like I'm driving in a car or like inside a boat, with a roof or something. I'm like, they push all this safety gear to just ruin people's like natural experience. There's always some way they're like trying to ruin all your fun, right? And I'm like, okay, so this again comes to the idea that all boating is dangerous. It's kind of like the idea like all biking, you're gonna hit your head. But like boating varies so much. If you're out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, right, you definitely want some kind of flotation device, ideally like a canoe or like a boat that's gonna last for a while and you're not gonna freeze, right? But even like a dinghy, like those little circle things, that's probably preferable to a life jacket because you can easily, like when your cruise ship starts sinking, like the Titanic, you have plenty of time to grab a dinghy and put it on you. Whereas a life jacket, it's pretty slow to put on. It takes like a couple minutes to put on, right? So I think like these circle dinghy things like flotation devices are better than life jackets, right? But yeah, I mean, there certainly is circumstances where it makes sense to wear a life jacket, right? And you have to think about how good of a swimmer you are, right? So, a lot of people don't have experience swimming. A lot of people don't have experience cold water swimming. If you don't have experience on either of those things, then yeah, take some flotation devices. That's a good idea. And if you're a pretty good swimmer, when we have this safety always mindset, these stupid rules that people have to follow, which don't make any sense, then people are in more danger because they're doing things stupidly, right? There's these same people who are telling me to wear a life jacket. They're the ones who are drowning in rip currents, right? And the same people who are telling me, all the time to wear a bike helmet, they're the ones breaking all their bones and having all these severe injuries all the time. And I'm the one who's never broken a bone in their life, right? So, thinking is a lot more powerful than following stupid, trendy slogans, right? And yeah, that's the thing. People should learn about physics. People should learn about risk. People should learn about these things and get information. It's not so simple. Like, so whenever I go boating, it's it's usually somewhere I could swim. It's usually somewhere I do swim, right? And to me, it's totally irrational to wear a life jacket on that boat. You know, if I can easily swim the thing without a life jacket, I'm definitely not wearing one on a boat, right? And there's other cases where I would want a life jacket. If I was like whitewater rafting or something, yeah, I probably want a life jacket, you know. There's like a really huge chance of getting like pulled under through some kind of like current or something like this, right? So, you know, if you're not, you know, that's the bottom line. Thinking is much more important. Being rational and thinking is much more important than following these like tyrannical slogans. And the importance of not wearing a life jacket cannot be emphasized enough. Like it's like a totally different experience to be on a canoe without a life jacket as opposed to being on a canoe with one. And I don't even get why, like, I might be wrong about the law. I think I'm correct about this, but you know, maybe fact check me. Like, why do people even need to have a life jacket on like a canoe? Why can't they just bring the circle dinghy, right? Like, to me, that seems like a much more rational option because then you don't have to wear this life jacket. And if your canoe starts to sink, it's not that hard to grab the dinghy and put it around your body. It takes like 1 second to do that, right? It's not a hard thing to do. Okay, what do you think? Do you think life jackets are tyrannical? Let me know your thoughts.